So we're always hearing that AI is the answer to, well, everything. But what if its real power, especially in learning, isn't about giving answers at all? Today, we're going to dig into how students are using AI to ask better questions. And it all starts with something we all think we know, the scientific method.
I want you to think way back to your science class. Remember the scientific method? For most of us, it was probably just this, simple step-by-step recipe. Question, hypothesis, experiment, conclusion. Done, right? It felt more like a checklist you just had to get through to get the right answer. But what if that whole view misses the entire point?
And yeah, for a lot of students starting out, that's exactly where they begin, with this really basic kind of misunderstood version. It feels sterile, totally disconnected from the real world, something that only happens in a lab with a white coat on. Okay, this slide right here, it lays out the entire journey these students went on. On the left, you've got where they started, thinking of it as this rigid checklist, just for lab coat science. But look where they ended up, on the right. They realized it's actually this flexible, iterative process, a tool for everyday problems that absolutely requires human judgment. So how in the world did they make that leap? So how did they get from point A to point B? Well, they didn't just wander around hoping for the best. They used a really structured framework to guide their thinking, which made sure they didn't skip any critical steps along the way. And here it is, it's called the DIVER framework. Honestly, just think of it as a roadmap for learning. It starts with discovery, then moves to interaction, verification, and editing, and then, and this is so crucial, it ends with reflection. So it's not a straight line, it's more of a loop that really pushes for continuous, deeper thinking. And you can see the impact right away in the students' own words. This structure wasn't some box they were trapped in, it was actually clarifying. It took what could be a really messy research process and turned it into something that, as this student put it, just makes sense. Okay, so you've got the person with a solid framework. Now let's bring in the tech. But here is the absolute key. AI wasn't used as some kind of answer machine. It became this dynamic, critical partner inside that DIVER process. At first, the way they used AI was pretty simple. If a student was kind of off track or maybe misunderstood a core idea, the AI just acted like a helpful guide, a gentle nudge in the right direction. It was like a safety net for just getting the basics down. Listen to this student, for example. They didn't use AI to do the work for them. No, they used it to check the work they'd already done. The AI helped them reorganize and correct their own thinking. It's a simple first step, but a really, really powerful one. But then, really quickly, something fascinating started to happen. Students began using the AI for something way more sophisticated than just checking their work. The tool's whole role in their learning process, it started to change. And this right here is where everything shifted. The AI went from being a simple fact checker to being a question asker. It stopped just telling students what they already knew and started pushing them into what they didn't know, asking these complex questions that forced them to think on a much deeper level. Wow. This quote just nails the transformation, doesn't it? The students were intentionally using AI to provoke their own thinking. They weren't looking for answers to copy and paste, they were looking for questions that would spark a whole new idea and challenge everything they thought they knew. And this partnership, a person using a framework, talking with an AI designed to ask tough questions, it led to some really profound personal discoveries. These were the true aha moments. The moments where real deep learning actually happens. So one of the most powerful things they uncovered wasn't in some textbook. It was inside themselves. This whole process of questioning their research forced them to look in the mirror and confront their own hidden assumptions and biases. Just think about the self-awareness in this quote for a second. Through this process, the student didn't just learn about a topic, they learned about themselves. They uncovered this unconscious belief that was coloring how they saw the world. That's a level of insight you just can't get from reading a chapter in a book. And it wasn't just about personal biases. Students also learned to turn that critical eye outward. They started to look past the famous conclusions of well-known experiments and actually question the methods that were used to get there in the first place. For example, by using the DIVER framework, this student didn't just accept a classic study like the Stanford prison experiment at face value. That verify step in the process literally pushed them to slow down, to dig deeper, and to uncover all the controversies and ethical problems that make that story way more complicated than we're usually told. So what's the end result of all this? What's the final transformation? It's not just about getting a better grade. It is a completely new, much more sophisticated, and way more personal understanding of what it even means to think like a scientist. So here's the new definition, basically built from the student's own words. And notice the key words here: adaptability, human judgment, ethics. The scientific method is no longer some sterile checklist. It's a practical, powerful tool for thinking through the messiness of the real world.
And this just gets right to the heart of it. Science isn't some cold, objective machine. It's a human thing. This student realized that even the best, most consistent methods are basically useless without our own judgment and a strong ethical compass to guide them.
And here it is, the final, powerful connection. The scientific method isn't something just for scientists out there. As this student realized, it's a tool for all of us. At its core, it's just the process of asking questions and solving problems, something we're all doing every single day without even thinking about it.
So, what's the big takeaway here? It's that when you combine a structured human framework like DIVER with an AI partner that you use for questions instead of answers, you can totally transform what learning is. The goal shifts from just passively getting information to actively learning how to think critically.
And that leaves us with a final thought to chew on. We spend so much time worrying about AI giving students all the answers, but maybe we're looking at it all wrong. What if its most powerful role in education isn't to be the answer, but to become the ultimate tool for helping us ask better questions?